In this video, we're going to show you how to replace your multifunction turn signal lever located just on the left-hand side of your steering column. This covers 2005 through 2010 Chrysler 300. Now on the inside of the car, you want to go ahead and make sure that your steering wheel, if it telescopes, is all the way out towards you. Now there's two options here. You might have had a power feature like ours, or you had a manual feature. If it's manual, just pull that lever, pull it out. Ours is power. We already pulled our steering wheel out. Let's go ahead and disconnect the battery. Now we're going to disconnect your battery. We're going to go ahead and open up the trunk lid. I'm going to go ahead and lift up the spare tire cover area here, and that's going to expose our battery on the passenger side rear of the vehicle. We're going to use our 10mm wrench, and we're going to loosen the nut on our ground terminal here. Once you have that loose, we're going to spin that and disconnect it. I'm going to come on over to the positive side. We're going to do the same here. I'm going to disconnect that, set that aside. Now with your steering wheel fully extended out, you want to go ahead and recognize there are two 10mm screws on the back side. All right, so we're going to start by making sure that our steering wheel is nice and level and the front wheels are straight. And we're going to go on the back side here, and we're going to have to turn our wheel just a little bit to get this in here. We're going to start with this side. Go ahead, loosen and remove this one here, and then we'll go to the other side and remove that one. Once again, make sure that your wheel is nice and level. At this point here, we should be able to go ahead and remove our horn button here. Once you remove the center unit here, this has your airbag and your horn button in it. And there are connectors on the back side we're going to want to go ahead and get to. I'm going to start by disconnecting the upper button up top here first. On the back side of your clip right here, we're going to use our pick. I'm just going to get underneath that. Kind of open that up. You can go either way here. Just lift up in that lock tab here. And work that out like so. Now on the back side right here, there's a little spring clip on each side. You could push these in together. And pop that off. I'm going to go ahead and do the same with this one here. And we have our airbag removed. You want to go ahead and set this someplace away from people, face down. Let's go ahead and just put that aside for now. Now on the bottom side right here, we have another connector. I'm going to go ahead and use a pick and just go on the bottom side right here. Press up on this little spring clip here, pop that out. That's going to allow us to go ahead and snake this wire harness through the steering wheel once we remove that. Now right here, we have a number 10 socket. This is an Allen key. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the center unit here, the nut or bolt, actually the 10mm bolt. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this here. All right, These tend to be a bit tight. Okay, loosen that. We do have some blue Loctite on that, so we'll be sure to use some of that when we reinstall this unit. At this point here, we're going to try and just work our steering wheel. Rock it back and forth a little bit, loosen it on the splines. Go ahead and slide that off, and we're going to work our harness through the slot right here. Now this component right here is our clock spring. You want to be very, very careful when handling this here. You want to pay attention to this little arrow here pointing down. And we're going to go ahead and rotate that so that is in the dead center at 12 o'clock. There's going to see a little notch on the top of your shaft here for your steering wheel. That's going to expose 3 of the T10 Torx screws. Now what we want to do is we want to prevent this from rotating when we remove it from the vehicle. In order to do so, I'm going to go ahead and take one of these screws, and I'm going to back this out. I'm not going to remove it, but I'm going to back it out. And what this is going to do is as it comes out, that's going to prevent this from rotating out of sync here. Right there. It's going to act as a stop. Now on the bottom side here is going to be another Torx screw. We're going to go ahead and loosen this counter or set screw on the bottom. And what we should be able to do at this point here is grab this whole unit and slide it up and off. When you pop this off, you're going to be disconnecting it from the connector on the right side of the steering column there. Now as we flip this over, there's going to be 3 small Phillips head screws. I'm going to go ahead and loosen those, and that'll allow us to pull this cover off. And slide that cover off. So I'm going to carefully remove all 3 of these Torx screws. Now at this point here, we're going to carefully remove our clock spring from the unit. I'm going to pull this straight out. Going to go ahead and use our Phillips head screwdriver to remove this screw right here. That should allow us to go ahead and pull this module up and off. Pull it straight up. We have our cruise unit right here. Go ahead and pull that straight up and slide that off. We have our power lever. If you have a power tilt, go ahead and pull this up and off, set that aside. And you want to pay attention to this screw right here. This is the one, this is the set screw that holds this unit to the steering column. So we're gently going to pull this straight up and off. Now at this point here, we're going to take our new part, set the old one aside. Let's begin our reassembly process. I'm going to make sure that we have our screw in here. Make sure we line everything up. What we're paying attention to right here is we have our connector on the back side here. So I want to make sure that we're lining up perfect with this connector as we do our assembly. We also want to make sure that we have our set screw lined up as well. Now we have this connected. Just doing an inspection all the way around. We have our set screw in there. We want to make sure that that is free floating, which it is. Then once you have your signal lever attached to the main unit here, we're going to go ahead and install our power lever for the tilt and telescoping. Now when installing this here, there is a little blade right here that is going to line up with this notch. So I'm going to make sure that lines up. Just line that up and pop that down into place. Once we have our tilt and telescoping lever in, we're going to go ahead and install our cruise lever. This has two little J-hooks in the plastic. It should line up with the metal tabs here. It should slide right down into place. Pop it in. Install this module here. Slide that down and into place. And install our one screw right here. And just snug that down. Doesn't have to be super tight, just make sure that it's snug. And bring over our clock spring here. I want to go ahead and line this up as well now. You need to be careful with these pins right here. You want to make sure that they slide down on the inside. It should pop right into place. Install our 3 clock spring screws here. Once you get those started by hand, I'm going to go ahead and snug 2 of these down. Once that screw bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. It doesn't have to be super tight. Just want to be able to stabilize this unit. Now our third one here, we are going to install enough where it's still going to be used as a stopper like we had used previously upon removal. Pretty much where that screw is flush with the top of the clock spring. I'm going to install our cover. Once that cover is in, go ahead and install your 3 screws on the back side here. And go ahead and snug those down. Now at this point here, we're going to go ahead and install our unit here. Now you want to make sure that the connector on the inside here lines up with the connector onto the right side of the column. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this down into place. Here we go. We have that snapped into place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tighten down our screw right here. Now at this point, we're going to make sure that our clock spring have a little arrow right here, and it should be pointing at the top of our steering shaft right here. There's a little notch on the top. Make sure that is facing that. Next, you want to take your steering wheel here, and we're going to feed our wires through this. Now what we want to do is line up our steering wheel. There's going to be a little arrow at 12 o'clock. I want to go ahead and line up that little arrow with that notch on the top of the steering wheel on that shaft. And go ahead and wiggle this down into place. this point here, you want to go ahead and replace the 10 millimeter nut here, the anchoring bolt that holds your steering wheel to the steering shaft itself. Get that started. We're going to zip that on down. Now you want to go ahead and torque this center bolt down to 52 foot-pounds. Once that's torqued, making sure that your steering wheel is centered, we're going to install the little white connector at the base of the steering wheel here. Simply line that up and snap it into place. Next, we're going to install our airbag module. We're just going to do the reverse of the installation. We're going to install our airbag units here first, and then we'll install the upper harness here. Bring our connector up on the top here. Good, line that up. Snap that into place. Then we'll go ahead and work our module back into the steering wheel. Now with this set in place, we're going to go ahead and use our T10 Torx screw, and we're going to go ahead and anchor the set screw on the midsection here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down. All right, so that's nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and install our 10 millimeter bolts on the back side of the steering wheel. Just going to turn this slightly. Get that bolt started in there. Once that's caught, I want to go ahead and install the one on the other side. We're just going to thread those in as far as you can by hand. Then we'll come back with our ratchet here. And we just want to snug those in place. Now at this point here, let's go ahead and reconnect our battery. Let's go ahead and reconnect our battery here. Install the positive terminal here. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. And once you have that good and tight, go ahead and install your ground terminal. We'll do the same for this. At that point there, we can go ahead and close down our cover here. Now with the battery connected, we're going to go ahead and cycle through and program our ESP, which is our electronic stability program, and our SIS, our steering angle sensor. To do this, go ahead and start the vehicle. Make sure that your steering wheel is centered. Next, what you want to do is go ahead and take that steering wheel. We're going to crank it all the way to the left to the point that it stops, and then all the way to the right until it stops, and then come back to center and shut off the vehicle. Once you've completed that, your ESP and SAS has been reprogrammed.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.